Good.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'll go ahead and call the water policy meeting to order on Wednesday, June 17th at 10:35. And we'll start with the approval of the minutes. Do we have Councilmember Lawson and Andrews on?
Yes, they're,
Yes.
and the mayor's joining us.
Oh, hi, Mayor.
I approve the minutes.
Thank you. Councilmember Andrews?
I approve.
Okay, and I do as well. So minutes are approved and we'll move on to consent items. These items are routine in nature. So if you would like to pull the item, we can have, you can pull it for discussion. Otherwise, we can move on.
Chair, could I just pull the legislative, I'm sorry, I don't have my agenda in front of me. The legislative item, I just want to hear a little bit about the revegetation bill. Is that something that the water department is going to be working on, or the?
It's not,
discussing-
it's
It's
actually
not on there?
It's not on
Oh.
there. I think we could
Yeah.
still talk about it. If you
Oh,
want.
It's up to you if
Okay.
you want. I'm happy to talk about it because I do have an update for that if you'd
Oh,
like.
okay, let's go ahead and get
okay.
the,
My apologies.
No,
Sorry
it's
about
okay.
that.
It's a little bit off just because we didn't have anything going on, but I'm happy to tell you, yes. So I actually met with Jep earlier this week to develop and formulate a plan. We do know that there's going to be, when we say we know, everything is telling us that there's going to be a statewide bill that's more than likely going to be brought forward by, we're not entirely sure whether, we're not sure who's going to bring it, but we're pretty sure somebody will. And so we are currently in the process of identifying how we're going to actually work through that. There's a number of people that we know are also very concerned about a re-veg bill coming forward that would impact the entire state. And so, we definitely have intentions to be able to understand their perspectives and where they're coming from and do a lot more groundwork this go around, just to better understand where that's headed, and meeting specifically with our legislators that we need to have understand our perspective of it ahead of the session. So but I will tell you this, Councilmember Lawson, you will be getting a lot more information from us because we have other things that are in mind. So we'll be definitely bringing that to Pfizer so that we can get your guys' permission for some of the things that we're thinking about heading into next year.
Okay, thank you so much for that update.
any other items on consent? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the drought restriction update. Who's doing that, Tim?
That is me. Yeah, I was funny. I was pulling up the agenda to see where it is. I was at. I must have clicked on an old one because there was another topic in there. I'm like, Casey, am I presenting on something else?
Oh.
We were good. I just had the wrong one. Let me share my screen. So just the kind of the same couple slides with an update, and then I have some updated numbers since this was through June 2nd originally.
And while you're pulling that up, I had somebody stop at our house while I was not home, and they were like in the area, and they talked to my husband, and they're like, we see that you were using water on Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Perfect.
Blah, blah, blah. And so then when I got home, my husband's like, what the heck? So busted.
System works.
General updates, most customers, we have a couple problem customers, but most of them are correcting their issues after getting their warning and not going through the fines, and that's evident in the numbers. As of June 2nd, we had exceeded the 2025 total warnings by 35%. It's over double now. And then there was a request at last water policy meeting to understand the difference between those actually following the restrictions of watering 2 days per week versus those that were watering more than 2 days per week. As of June 2nd, the 6th, those people who are watering 3 or 4 days per week on average use 41% more water on their irrigation than those who are following the 2 day per week requirements. Those watering 5, 6, or 7 days were using 114% more irrigation. So over double. So the 2 days per week does work. And if they follow the 2 days, they generally save.
And my husband was doing the 2 days. I was hand watering,
During the day.
but during the day.
We catch everybody. Catch everybody. AMI is
I
working.
thought that's what you had told me, was you were hand
It
watering.
was hand
I
watering
shouldn't have
for a
done
while,
anything.
though.
But the Sunday, were you
It was Sunday at 1
irrigation
o'clock.
system turned on?
No, irrigation system not turned on.
Just from the hand watering
Uh-huh.
we stopped by?
Yeah.
It flagged it in the system. So if you used 100 gallons or more, then your winter, it'll catch it.
Wow. I think I thought you were safe. Sorry.
I was saying.
Here's the numbers again. This was through June 2nd. We had given out 1,334 warnings. We're currently over 1,700. We had given out 72 fines. I looked this morning, we were over 101
Wow.
in the system. And total customer contacts are up a couple hundred. It's a little over 2,200. So AMI is still working well. Very few people wanting to dispute their violations or their fines. And when they do, and we show them the data, then they don't want to dispute it anymore. So the data is successful. Still, obviously, a lot of work to manually verify those, but the team's getting quicker at understanding certain things. So yeah, lots of customer contact.
Okay. Councilmember Lawson or Andrews, do you have any questions?
I do have one question. I don't mean to get back to the car wash, but the car wash that I go to, I have a couple that I go to. So when I get my car detailed, it's a totally different situation. But the owner was asking me about, they received a letter in their other location that talking about their water usage. And I thought we weren't going to be messing with car washes.
So they probably did get a letter, right?
Yep.
But the letter talked about how, so we're not messing with their water use right now, but what we have communicated to all those car washes is that they need to go through our certification program. Because stage 2, if we get to stage 2, then they get restricted. So if they're not certified, they would be shut off in stage 2. So we sent a letter saying, hey, we need you to work with us to get certified to avoid potentially bad consequences when we get to stage 2. And I think we gave them till August to get certified.
Yeah, as long as it's before we go into stage 2. We had talked about some other stuff around August for stage 1, and we didn't move forward with that.
That's not in there.
Well, is the letter, I'm sorry, is the letter clear? And I'm sorry to bring this up, but I will communicate this with the car wash because I get my car detailed quite a bit. So they were asking me and I didn't even understand the letter. Was the letter clear that it's a certification and not something about they need to cut their water?
Well, it could have been one of two letters. It could have been the certification letter that went out earlier this spring that was very clear on the certification program, when it's required going into stage 2. We currently have the application up within the customer portal. We've had 0 car washes apply, although Cobblestone has reached out that they are planning to do all of their car washes in Aurora. They may have received a different letter about water use, and that would have been not necessarily about total water use, but if we pick up continuous flow or a leak, potential leak, then they will get a letter notifying them of that, and then we try to work with them to resolve that leak. They're not extremely uncommon in car washes, especially with the recycle systems that are hidden away in the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing room. We've resolved a few very big leaks over the last couple of years using AMI with car washes. So depends on the letter they're referencing. One of them is very clear about the certification program. It could have been a water use or a continuous flow leak alert type of letter as well.
Okay.
We could, and we can share the certification letter was pretty standard for all the car washes. So if you'd like a copy of that, we're happy to share that with the committee.
Yeah, if you could for me, because I go to every week to get my car kind of detailed. So
We'll share a copy of that.
just so I can see it. Okay.
The car washes can reach out to me as well and let me know what letter it was, and then I can either help them understand the certification process if that was the letter they're referencing, or I can get Brendan on it if it was a continuous flow leak alert. So yeah, feel free to have them contact me directly and we'll help them out depending on which letter it was.
Okay, thanks.
So is the certification program just to certify that they are doing a reuse?
There's a reuse component. It really boils down to efficiency, whether there's reuse or not. So there's gallon per vehicle limits based off of the type of car wash. So in-bay, conveyor, and then the self-service like with the wand. So that,
Yeah.
and that's all in the letter as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is a good question because there are some car washes that may have to implement some changes or efficiencies in order to become certified. So, and I don't know how far have we heard from, you said Cobblestone we've heard from. Have we heard from very many of the others? I guess the other thing, Councilmember Lawson, if you wanted to let us know which car wash, we could double check and see if we sent them one of those leak letters too.
I'll send you the information. This isn't like a Cobblestone. This is the actual, they run the car through, but they actually detail, like it's a detailed place. It's not just,
Okay.
I have both situations. So,
Yeah.
sometimes I want to run it through and sometimes I want to detail. So this is a detailed car wash. So if I'll send you the name, if you could check it out and just let me know, that would be great. Cause they've asked me that question. I just didn't know I thought we weren't really tackling or messing with the car washes. So.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the Dominion update. And do we have Alex?
She's online. Yeah.
Alex, are you online?
I am. I'm so sorry I'm not there in person. I was giving a presentation to Janine Rusted's group this morning, so I couldn't get
Oh,
to
she's over there.
Steam fast enough. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yes, I have two presentations. The first one is Dominion. And let me share my PowerPoint. I am starting from the beginning. I know Councilmember Lawson, you probably remember a lot of this, but I don't think you were with us last year when we were going through this process. And Councilmember Andrews, I know you are pretty new to all of this. So I thought I'd start a little bit at the beginning and just refresh everyone's memory as to the first three agreements. So Dominion Water and Sanitation District provides water to, oh my gosh, I can't believe.
Sterling Ranch.
Thank you, Sterling Ranch. I was like, something ranch. It provides water to Sterling Ranch. And starting in 2009, we started entering into a variety of agreements with Dominion to provide them water. The 230 agreement was water that they had acquired an obligation. So we acquired water from Thornton. Aurora acquired water from Thornton that came with a return flow obligation. Dominion acquired that return flow obligation and then said, well, we want you to deliver that return flow into a different place where it can reach us at Sterling Ranch. So we went through a number of negotiations. We landed on this 230 acre foot number that was to be delivered through Roxborough until 2027. And then post 2027, the original agreement required us to deliver the water basically to the Strancha outlet, and they had to pick it up from there. The 250 agreement was an exchange of water rights. So Dominion came in and said, well, if we can acquire other water, will you trade it with us so that we can basically use your infrastructure to move some water through? And that agreement, and we said yes at the time, and that agreement resulted in 250 acre feet. And they delivered 3 sources of water for that 250 acre feet, and dedicated those water rights to Aurora. And now we deliver basically what's their water through Roxborough. But it was supposed to go through the WISE infrastructure which was supposed to really be up and running by 2018, but hasn't been, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So the 570 agreement also came out of this idea of the WISE partnership. So Dominion is a member of the WISE partnership, is a member of South Metro Water Supply Authority, and they agreed to take on a significant amount of that water in exchange for us working with them. And we agreed to provide 570 acre feet of their total obligation, which I think is 1285, temporarily at their Roxborough structure. So Roxborough, as you know, is a community that we provide water to. We have a direct line off of Rampart that allows direct delivery to Roxborough. Sterling Ranch is just on the other side of Roxborough and is able to move the water through Roxborough to the Sterling Ranch community. And so for Sterling Ranch, the delivery at Roxborough works really well. We don't like it so much because it's our mountain supply, but we had agreed to temporarily deliver 570 acre feet of their WISE water through the Roxborough connection. And that was going to end at the earliest of either May 31st, 2028, or when they connected to WISE. And I'm sure Councilmember Bergan will remember us pushing them, and we really appreciate your support and advocacy. I mean, your position was so helpful at that time because for the other council members' edification, their connection to WISE only required one stick of pipe that needed to be connected. And then they would be required to use the WISE infrastructure, and they were intentionally not connecting that pipe so that they could continue to get water from through Roxborough. So that was sort of the state when last year they came to us and they had a number of requests that they wanted us to consider in terms of amending the agreements that we had with them. So they wanted to keep getting the 230 water through Rampart to 2035 in exchange for rate increases. And they wanted to be able to continue to use Rampart for the 570 water until WISE was complete through 2028. And they wanted to remove, so the 250 agreement had terms including that said we wouldn't provide them water under certain circumstances, but because the water is actually their water, they wanted that to be out, and they wanted recognition of a couple of terms that had in fact occurred. So the amended agreement, and I will say the important change for us is that previously we were not properly, or maybe fully would be the better word, we were not fully charging Dominion for the use of our infrastructure. We're using our reservoirs, we're evening out the supply, we're capturing their water, we're running through our pipes. And so now all of these agreements include better pricing, more full pricing of the cost of the use of our reservoir. So all of them include that. The 2030 agreement, instead of 2035, we extended it to October 31st, 2031. For the installation there, they have intended to build a South Platte diversion below Strontia on the South Platte. They're actually working with or fighting with Denver about the location of that diversion. So if that diversion is installed, diversion point is installed before October 31st, the 230 agreement will be delivered to, well, we will just drop it in the river out of Strontia, and they will pick it up at the South Platte diversion. Our point of measurement is Strontia Springs Outlet. And after 2031, they can take that water through the WISE master meter if they have some sort of emergency with their South Platte diversion, but we will not deliver them any more water through Roxborough. And as I said, we have a robust facility and conveyance charge based on where that water is being delivered and the infrastructure that it's using. The 2050 agreement, they finalized their connection to WISE. So that water is, I don't think we've started delivering it through the WISE infrastructure, but as soon as the any permanent connection is in place, which we'll talk about in just a minute, that water will all be delivered through the WISE infrastructure and not through Rampart. The point of measurement will be Strontia Springs outlet, and again, charges based on the use of our facilities and conveyance. The obligation to deliver 570 acre feet of temporary WISE water has terminated. That is over when they connected to their pipeline to the WISE infrastructure. We agreed that if WISE deliveries are interrupted due to, say, a drought year, that we would be willing to talk about leasing water to them up to 570 at the WISE master meter up until January 31, 2028. And there is no further use of the Rampart system, and they are paying the full WISE rate for all of that water. We also included in that agreement an option that they have to choose in times of drought. For example, this year they have to choose that they will either reduce the amount of water they take by 20% or pay a surcharge on that last 20% of water. And then if they have, they do have system losses that are incurred by using the WISE infrastructure, then we agreed that if conditions are appropriate and we have the water, we could lease them water to cover those system losses, and we could release them construction water also under proper conditions. Like this year, we would probably not be leasing them system loss water. And that is the amended and restated agreement for Dominion. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Councilmember Lawson or Andrews?
No, I don't have it.
None for me.
Just, so if during drought, if they need, they can just pay the surcharge. They don't have to reduce water usage, and it's all through the WISE delivery.
It eventually will all be through the WISE delivery.
On the 570.
Well, the 570 is gone. We're not delivering any 570 water anymore.
Okay, did she say that there's still a connection to Benny?
That needs to be completed for WISE, and I think that's the next update.
Oh,
So yeah, we have the 3 volumes, and Alex kept saying 2030 and 2050. Fortunately, they're only 230 and 250. The smaller.
Funny. I apologize. 200.
You're fine. You're getting years. There's a lot of years of numbers. Anyway, so the 570 obligation has gone away. We're not delivering any more 570 water because they're having to take their WISE deliveries through the WISE system. And then the 230 water was their water that we agreed to deliver. That's still being delivered through Rampart until 2031 now. And then that obligation either shifts to the WISE infrastructure or to their own infrastructure that they haven't built yet. But it comes out of Rampart in 2031 at the latest, or at the earliest when they build their own diversion. And then the 250 water is the one that is dependent upon that Benny connection that Alex mentioned. So this one needs to come through the WISE infrastructure. But my recollection was the same as Alex's, which is it's still actually, I don't, we may have to double check that, Alex. John, okay, John might know.
Once the Benny connection, the permanent Benny connection is completed, which Alex is going to talk about here in a second, that 250 water will be delivered there. But until it's completed, they can still take it at Rampart. So we're just months away. But
Yeah, that was supposed to have been done by now, so maybe that's some of my confusion.
okay.
So yeah, 3 different volumes of water, but the largest volume, fortunately, before this year, went away.
Right.
So we're not delivering any of the 570, just the 230 and the 250.
Where is Sterling getting the water for their massive development? And now they're adding that
Sports complex.
sports complex.
Yeah, so
I think it's called.
they're continuing to get the 480 acre feet of their water
Yeah.
that we deliver. And then Wise, they're a
Okay.
large Wise subscriber. I think
Parker, maybe?
1,000,
It's over 1,000. I can't remember.
over it might be 1,200. I don't know if anybody,
Yeah, I thought it was 1285.
1,285, okay. So they get another 1,285 or so acre feet from the Wise system. Now, Wise, we're not making full deliveries this year.
Right.
So then they entered into an agreement with Castle Rock.
Oh, Castle Rock.
To
Okay.
firm their Wise supplies. So they bought wells in a well field down south. My understanding, it's been a while since I read that agreement. They conveyed those to Castle Rock, and then Castle Rock agreed to make their Wise deliveries to them, regardless of whether we're making the Wise deliveries into the system. And so they've got this well field that they use for backup supply. So Castle Rock, they convinced to firm their Wise supply, which gives them almost 2,000 acre feet of supply. And then from the beginning, and then they're doing a couple of other things. They've got some reuse efforts going on out there. So they're trying to reuse the water. And there was an article, I think, in the paper over the weekend. They did a stormwater harvesting pilot program there. So they're also, they put big, large underground cisterns in to capture stormwater and use stormwater on site. And they're having to report a bunch of data to the state and figure out how much of that water should have made it to the river. And then they'll have to augment the river for whatever losses the river takes from stormwater.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, did you want to say something?
Could
Alex?
you see the PowerPoint that I shared?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
Oh, yeah, we saw it. Very good. All right, we'll move on to the WISE presentation. Alex?
Okay, Wise. Again, I'm going a little bit back for those folks who haven't lived with WISE for the last 10 years. So WISE stands for Water Infrastructure Supply Efficiency. And it was an agreement that started in the early 2005, 2006, when Denver and Aurora started talking to South Metro about how they could help South Metro entities, towns like Castle Rock and Parker, and get off of non-renewable groundwater, because that is a train that is, it's another slow motion water supply disaster train that's coming, which is a lot of communities are relying on a non-renewable resource that will eventually run out. So the WISE Infrastructure and Supply Efficiency Project was designed to help South Metro get some renewable water to reduce the reliance on non-renewable groundwater. The terms of the initial WDA, or Water Delivery Agreement, was a 10-year block during which Denver and Aurora would each deliver 5,000 acre feet or 10,000 acre feet on average. The agreement includes the ability to deliver more water in a given year and less water in a given year. But the commitment is 100,000 acre feet over 10 years. And that's why the blocks are elastic. Right now, it's treated water from Binney. One of the evolutions has been South Metro is doing some of its own treatment now, and so that's changed up some of the treatment. And I won't go into that because I don't really totally understand the differences between who's chlorinating and not the water. A very important piece of the agreement is that they are interruptible supplies. So in a year like this year, Aurora and Denver could say to South Metro, we're interrupting it. We will not deliver you anything. However, while the supplies are interruptible, we still have this commitment to the block. So it's difficult if we are in a situation where we're not delivering anything. This year has worked out well. Last year, Denver was engaged in building the DIA pipeline, which I'll come up. And so this year, Aurora said, we are not going to deliver any water to Wise, but Denver is delivering water to Wise. So keeping us on track for the block. Both South Platte Train and Mountain Train water are used for the supply. Right now, up until 2031, there is a requirement for a certain TDS level to be met in the water that we deliver. Basically, that level that meets what we give to our own customers, that expires in 2031 at this point. And then we will be able to, if we choose, deliver solely South Platte Train water, which has a higher TDS level. It's not that we won't necessarily blend the two trains, but we have the option. We have much more flexibility in terms of what we will be delivering from a water quality point of view. Rates are complicated and determined based on a cost of service calculation. We deliver the water to a master meter, and South Metro Wise Authority delivers the water to their customers. There are 11 customers right now, members involved, and they all have different amounts that they get. We are not involved. Oh, 1325 was Dominion's, not 1285. 1325 is a little off. We don't have anything to do with how, if the block that is delivered is less than 10,000, how that is divided amongst those members. That is all behind the master meter, and we don't really worry too much about that. This is just a picture of our infrastructure. So one of the pieces, so two main pieces of infrastructure that were supposed to be in place in 2018 that kept getting delayed. One of them was the DIA pipeline connection. The DIA pipeline is a pipe that comes from DIA, and it enables Denver to keep their water from DIA fresher and bring in treated water into Prairie Waters, and enables them to provide water that's not subject to some of their agreements with the West Slope. So Prairie Waters is, of course, our South Platte Train, and the Rampart line is, of course, our Mountain Train. This is a sort of elongated photo, but you can see the infrastructure with regard to South Metro. So down in the southern part are all the South Metro Wise participants. We have the Binney treatment plant, water purification plant over here on the east side, and their main connection is right off of the Binney purification plant. They have two connections. Right now they have an interim or temporary connection, and one of the pieces of infrastructure that was supposed to have been built that they're still working on is a permanent connection facility on site at Binney that would enable them to take the full amount of water that we can give them. And then they have pipelines. Here's the Western pipeline. There's other infrastructure that they use to deliver the water to their participants. It has been a long time in the making. We started with studies and evaluations in 2007, 2009. The first agreement, 2012 and 2013. 2012 was an agreement between Aurora and Denver, which talks about how we will meet the obligation, how we will true up. If there's a year, last year, Aurora provided more of the blend water or mountain supply because Denver was running into problems with their West Slope agreements. This year, Denver's providing more water. Actually, all of the water going to Wise this year is from Denver. John is responsible for working closely on the accounting and the numbers and how much we're delivering. And keeps that all straight. 2015 to 2025, we had a number of letters put in place because the requirements for infrastructure development kept being missed. The deadlines for those infrastructures kept being missed. The two big pieces were that DIA pipeline connection and the permanent connection to Binney for South Metro infrastructure. The amended WDA, which we signed in March of last year, in 2025, was put a June 1 deadline for both of those pieces of infrastructure to be finalized. The DIA pipeline was finished in time. The permanent connection to Binney was not. And as a result, the consequence for not getting it done by June 1 was that our block reduced by 5,000 acre feet. We had in the amended WDA, we had the first 10-year block, which started with the water year of 2025 to 2026. The first year of the block was already reduced by 5,000 acre feet due to the lack of infrastructure and the fact that that had taken a long time to be put into place. So we started the first block with a 95,000 acre foot obligation for the first 10 years. That has now been reduced to a 90,000 acre foot obligation, which in a year like now, we're very happy to have in place. But the DIA pipeline is in place. We're waiting for this permanent connection. I think they were pushing hard to try to get it done by June, or someone may have an update, but I think they've got a lot of testing and work to be done. So it'll still be a couple more months before that gets done. So I guess I already said all this. I was ahead of myself. The DIA, everything's connected. We're waiting on the temporary, the permanent connection, and full delivery is it's going to be 5,000. So this year we're doing 6 MGD for the whole year, which I think is a little less than 6,000 acre feet, all coming from Denver. That will keep us a little head on the block. John can tell me if my math is correct there. And we are moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Questions from our committee members?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, just a question. So looking, I don't know how to say, I'm just trying to see how I can phrase this. So we control, I'm looking on there and I'm seeing a lot of Parker, Stonegate, Cottonwood. I'm seeing those areas. And the reason I bring this up all the time is because I noticed that, and I know this is about Wise, but I noticed that their grasses are a lot greener.
Oh.
So, and they are. And I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah, well, so Marshall can probably give you more detail as he's talked to
But
some of the heads.
I guess what I'm trying to ask though, regarding this, since we have the control, do we have like the control, because it's Denver and us with the Wise, what does Parker have to pay a surcharge if they use a certain amount of water that may be not within what we're contemplating in this agreement? Does that make sense, or am I totally off base
No,
here?
you totally make sense. So,
Okay.
the WISE agreement was crafted a little differently. So we talked about, the Dominion agreement, and we have other agreements, extraterritorial service agreements, where when Aurora goes into drought conditions, they're required to follow the same criteria and guidelines. So Roxborough is like that.
Trails.
They're like that. So, but WISE was crafted a little differently. What it did is it said, okay, we're going to deliver this volumetric obligation over 10 years. And if we get into a drought, Aurora, what we'll do, or Denver, what the agreement allows us to do is reduce or eliminate our delivery to them. So it doesn't have anything that requires that they do specific things to reduce water use in their system like some of our other agreements do. it just says we can deliver less water. So this year, right now, we're making deliveries in the 1,000 acre foot a year range. We're at 6 MGD, so that's pretty close, I think, to 6,000 acre feet. So we just reduced how much water we're sending, and then they have to figure out how to manage less water in their system. Now, what you're seeing, which is hugely concerning, and I have talked to a few people down there about, is because they're on this non-renewable groundwater supply, what they're doing is just pumping more groundwater and irrigating. So many of those systems, Parker, for example, they don't have drought restrictions, nor are they planning drought restrictions. What they've said is, well, we're just gonna, even though we're getting less water from Aurora and or Denver, we're going to pump more groundwater and we're just going to keep using it. It's going to catch up to them in the long run, but in the short run, they can get away with it because they're, in my opinion, being irresponsible with their water supply and just consuming groundwater that's a non-renewable supply. So Castle Rock was responsive. They implemented drought restrictions in Castle Rock. But many of the other Dominion, we required them to do efficiencies out there. Their efficiencies look a little differently or a little different than ours. But most of the other recipients of Wise Water are just, well, and we don't even know, again, Wise divides their bucket of water up amongst themselves. So we don't even get involved in that. We do know, though, that most of the members have not implemented drought restrictions. So, and they're using groundwater to avoid restrictions.
Well, thank you for explaining that because I go through there quite a bit. And if you go west on Lincoln, all the way down, nice and green. If you go over through Lone Tree, you kind of go over to where Forstrom Street is, green. And so maybe that makes a lot more sense to me. And I just never understood, since now that you've explained it, I can understand now why their grass is a lot greener and fluffier. And so thank you for that explanation. I'm pretty sure that the homeowners have to pay for that for sure. Yeah.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And they will be paying, the pain will be significant in the longer term, but in the short term, they're getting away with it. So it's kind of frustrating.
And those entities that are in the WISE agreement can just trade amongst each other.
They can, and they can sell, they can trade, they can do two things. They can trade in the short term and they can sell their volume. And a couple of those are negotiating right now. And this is a really interesting thing. They're negotiating selling their WISE supplies, and then they'll be fully dependent. Well,
that they're selling.
They can sell their shares in the WISE agreement. So there's one or two who are thinking of selling all of their shares in the WISE agreement to other partners. And there are partners who are interested in buying those.
Interesting.
But the entities that sell their shares are going to be the extreme example that we just talked about. They're going to shift back over to their groundwater entirely and set up a very unsustainable model for the future of their water.
Are they selling with a premium of?
Yeah, I don't know we're not in fact, I'm not supposed to say who's selling and to whom.
Right.
So I don't know the price point. I just know that there are negotiations going on to sell.
Kind of interesting. It's like I get the water for the agreement, then I can actually charge you more water and make money if I don't think I need to use the water.
Yeah, theoretically. Yeah.
Are there talks of, you said, what's the 2030 deadline? That's
Yeah, for WISE,
for the mountain water?
or is.
Oh, because we blend
It's the,
right
yeah,
now.
it's the
That's
requirements.
the blending.
It's the requirements.
So in 2031, we don't have.
You don't
We-
have to.
We
We don't
won't
have
have
to.
to blending. So they'll have to figure out how to deal with the salinity, the salt, the higher salt levels, which is not a health and safety issue. It's an aesthetic issue. So they have a couple of choices. They could just have higher salt in their water. It would not taste as good. Or they can build treatment facilities to remove the salt. So I will say we are currently, and we may have mentioned this before, I can't remember. We're in the midst of a study where we're looking at potentially partnering with them in an RO facility to remove salt. We, in our planning, eventually, because anytime you create a reuse system, every time the water gets used, we add, because of our uses, detergents, fertilizers, anything, shampoos, we add salt to the water as it comes back. The wastewater treatment process doesn't remove the salts. It focuses on the biological loading.
Okay.
So every time that water goes through our system, it accumulates salt, which is one reason why the Wise water source has higher salt, is because it's our reclaimed source.
Oh,
But eventually, as our use increases and our volume increases, we will have a salt challenge in Aurora. So eventually we need to start removing salt, not necessarily today. So we're looking at potentially partnering with Castle Rock and maybe other Wise and partners, maybe South Metro in its entirety, to do a joint facility to start removing the salts. So that's in discussion. If we don't figure something out collaboratively, they're on the hook for managing the salt.
and then, since the permanent connection's not made yet to Benny, is that SEMSWA that's responsible for building that infrastructure?
It is. The infrastructure is actually built.
Well, because I remember the pipeline going through
Remember the
Alexander,
pipeline?
'cause that was.
That was years ago, right?
Years ago, because I went to their HOA meetings.
Yeah.
So the pipelines there is just what, the connection?
The controls,
Oh,
the control system.
Oh.
So they've been struggling with how to sort through the operating and controlling the system, which is interesting. So it turned out a little bit beneficial to us because they missed their deadline. And so that's why we reduced our delivery
Right.
obligation. So.
Okay. Very interesting. Any other questions? Yes,
No.
ma'am. All right, very good. Okay, miscellaneous items. Does anybody have anything that they would like presented in our future policy meetings? And maybe you could tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, we have a few things to talk a little bit about today,
Oh,
and
okay.
then probably bring additional detail later. One is maybe the easiest one is we've got a water tour we
Oh, right.
are planning for August and wanted to share the dates with the three of you and see if you had any concern over us finalizing the dates. We sent some survey stuff out previously to get the dates, but August
11th and 12th.
11th and 12th, which is a Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yes.
are the dates we were looking at. Do we know if those dates will work?
Yeah, I mean, I'll miss a AEDC meeting, but that's okay.
Okay.
Does that work for our committee members? If you're planning on going on the water tour?
That'll work for me. I'll miss an AdCog meeting, but I can get my, my other person to do it. So that'll work for me.
Okay.
And
Do we
Andrews?
know where we're going?
Yeah, that's the other exciting news. You guys will like this, I think.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay overnight at Princeton,
Oh,
right? That's what it's called,
Mount Princeton.
Mount
Mount
Princeton.
Princeton.
That's where we've done dinner previously.
Oh, so very nice.
Now,
Oh, I love that
now,
idea.
I thought you might. For those of you who've been
You're
to
thinking
Mount
of you.
Princeton,
I just really like, ding, ding.
We thought you'd like that. Now.
So
a little
Angela,
bit
you
of a-
just have to watch for the bears because we'll be spending the night there.
Okay.
Yes. And Council Member Andrews,
Yes,
okay, does that work for you? That,
it does work.
perfect. So you'll like, so Mount Princeton's nice. We've usually done dinner there and stayed in a lower cost option, but this year's just a council tour. So since it's just council and a few staff, we're gonna put everybody up at Mount Princeton and just spend the dinner and evening and stay the night and then get out to a few of the sites that are close by.
Fantastic.
We thought you might like that.
Are we going to turquoise? I love turquoise.
We,
We're finalizing the exact stops that we're gonna have. So yeah.
yeah, right now we've prioritized, and we can tweak this maybe, but what we've prioritized is Homestake and Otero, since
Okay.
many of the new council members haven't seen those. And they're so critical to us.
Yeah.
And then we thought the new Wild Horse South site might be helpful.
What?
The new Wild Horse South Reservoir
Oh.
site. We've taken everybody to the old Wild Horse original site.
No.
We've not been to Wild Horse South. So,
because we didn't.
but we'll see if we can work turquoise in.
Feel the
Yeah.
Is there any water in it?
Well, Jefferson is empty. We had to, we
water
rained.
there that I think there are in others.
Yeah. So Jefferson would not be,
Not good.
well, unless you want to go see what an empty reservoir looks like. Turquoise.
Well, that would be Wild Horse.
Well, that's true too. That's true
That's
too.
awesome.
Well, that one at least is supposed to be empty right now.
Right.
Jefferson is not. But we had to drain it too.
Okay. Great.
So that's probably the easiest one. So we will get that communication out to the entirety of council. If you have a chance to visit with your colleagues, you can let them know what we're looking at. And again, that should be a fun trip. And Mount Princeton is a great resort. So next, and I am not in the meeting. So we are, speaking of drought again, we have, for any huge customer that consumes a ton of water, we're requiring that they reduce their use by 20% this year. Primarily, that is large irrigation accounts. So golf courses, parks, a lot of our own facilities. However, we also sent Niagara a letter and said you need to, I was going to ask that. You need to reduce your use by 20% because Niagara is fully consumable. And they are, and we said, we're happy to talk with you. So initially Shawnee was having conversations. I've met with them a couple of times. They've decided that they, rather than try to work with us on ways, and we've offered up some things they could do to create water savings and then be able to minimize the impact. So we've said, yeah, if you will work with us to go into our system and create water savings opportunities, we can work with you on reducing your reduction.
Okay.
But they've decided they want to start reaching out and lobbying everyone they can.
Well, I just got an email.
You
And
got
I'm
an
sure the council member Lawson and Andrew.
I just got an email yesterday.
Yeah.
That's consistent.
So, yeah, so what they're trying to do, when they met with us initially, they said, no, we don't think you have the authority to reduce our use. You gave us a will serve letter that promised us all this water, and will serve letters don't do that. They provide an assurance that we will provide water and wastewater service. And then they have a paragraph in there that says, our understanding is that this is what your plans currently are. And it goes through costs. So their will serve letter is from, I think, 2012. and it used numbers from 2012, but there's no promise of delivering that volume of water. They then have to go through the process of paying connection fees that firm up the volume of water they would use. They've been exceeding the use that they paid a connection fee for by not an insignificant amount. So we told them, no, you don't have a promise that you can just use however much water you want. It's tied to your connection fee. So they aren't happy with that. And they would like, it appears what they would like to do is get somebody, whether it's the city manager or a council member, or the planning department, they've also reached out to them to tell us we have to give them the water that they want. They haven't complained about the surcharge. What they're complaining about is the reduction of
Yeah.
use. So, so the first thing was to give you all a heads up that you might hear from them soon. You've already heard from them. The mayor is in the process of scheduling a meeting that
Will
he's
they-
invited me to join him for.
The letter gives us option of 3 different dates to
Yep.
meet with them.
June 30th, July 1st, July 2nd,
Yeah,
probably,
well, yeah.
because those are the days they're in town. Obviously, it's up to you all if you want to meet with them. I'm happy to join you for any meetings. We're trying to, and Jason, by the way, has already met with them once and said, negotiate with the water department. They're operating within their authority. And he's communicated that he is in lockstep with what we're asking them to do. So he's communicated that already.
So just real quick, because the letter also talks about their economic impact to the city in terms of obviously revenues. And that this, it sounds like, if I remember from the letter, that if we require them to reduce by 20%, it impacts obviously how many bottles they can manufacture, which then reduces their revenues, which I guess would reduce our, you know, I mean, water's not even taxed, is it?
No, so that's a little bit of the problem with some of, so we can, and that's part of what I wanted to ask, if there was any information that might be helpful to you all. We can put together, we can work with the city finance group and put together the revenue benefits that come from water sales, which are because
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where the revenues would come from property taxes, but we only get
well, and this
not
doesn't, yeah.
8% of our revenues come from property taxes.
And this wouldn't affect their property tax revenue.
Right.
So our initial, and we did an evaluation a little while ago, and the revenue impacts to the city are very small, if even noticeable.
So I think it's more from, they are providing jobs to our,
And they referenced probably in
And I
the,
don't know
in the
how many
email,
are
they said they
representative.
have 80 people. That's what they told us, is we have
Yeah.
80 people we'll have to lay off or not pay. And I suggest, they're supposedly going to meet with planning. I've suggested to planning, hey, ask them for details behind the jobs. From what we can tell, and by the way, this happened back in 2013 as well. They claimed then 120 jobs, and we said, share the details on the jobs, and they provided information that was more like 19 jobs rather than 120. It was like an order of magnitude less. So
if we could get maybe some data on, that.
we're asking for that. We also suggested to them that rather than just run the facility at peak capacity for the next number of months, lower your capacity a little bit and spread it out.
well, that's what I was gonna say is, can they reduce it during the summer?
They could.
And then, you know,
Will they?
ramp up?
Is the other
in the
question. So they
winter?
told us, no, they don't want to do that. Because that affects their overhead, and they went into how their distribution model works, and most of the bottled water in this area comes from that facility, generic brands. So they're bottling Dasani,
Kirkland.
generic Kirkland.
Kirkland?
They bought a lot of the bottled water you see in the shelves in the Denver metro area comes from that facility. So we are meeting with them. We're having discussions. We're trying to get them to do, and we think we've put an offer that is amazing on the table for them. That would be a very relatively low cost investment for them to gain some of the, which is associated with turf conversions, some going into some city facilities and removing Kentucky bluegrass and putting Tahoma 31. They could save quite a bit of water. And we've said, if you'll work with us on something like that, we'll figure out how to work with you to address some of these concerns with how much water you can use. So, but they would rather have somebody tell us that we can't reduce their volume of water they want to use and they can just do whatever they want. So we've thrown them in the category of large consumable user. So for a golf course, there's a couple of things. For the other large consumable users, they both get surcharged and they have to reduce the volume of water they're using. And so that's how we're treating Niagara, because that's the category they fit in.
Okay.
Their volume of water use is not like any other commercial facility. It looks more like an irrigation to me. So happy to join you if you want to meet with them. We're also happy if you want to just send them back to us and say,
I think
go
what
meet
would
with
be
water.
helpful, maybe Councilmember Lawson and Andrews, what might be helpful is, since obviously this letter went out to every council member, is if we could get a letter from the water department that's to council that says, we understand you're being approached by Niagara and we are working on
Okay.
A, B, C to,
I'm working on that.
Okay.
Right now.
We will
Okay.
get that. The other thing we thought could be helpful is there's a lot of history with Niagara and a lot of detail. So we thought we would send a letter to all of council saying, we understand you all got this, we're working with them, and scheduling an exec session to come talk about ongoing negotiations.
okay. I think because if we ever end up in a stage 2, what would be the situation for that bottling company at that point?
Even worse,
Even worse.
they would be told to cut production in half.
So they understand that?
They do, they do understand that.
They understand that that's what we would tell them they need to do. They are questioning whether we have the authority to do that. Interestingly, they haven't added attorneys to the meeting, partially because we clearly have the authority.
Well, I mean, I guess
I think.
my point is, we're all in the stage 1 restrictions, and the whole point is try to reduce water usage so that if we continue to have drought next year,
Yep.
that we don't end up in a stage
Or even
2.
later this year.
Or later,
right?
yeah.
If they don't reduce at all, they are by far our largest non-irrigation customer. I was going to join the meeting and just share the numbers, but I can just tell you. So our largest single customers compared to so we have our large water user guide, right?
Yeah.
Our largest monthly user is Niagara. They use about 17.5 million gallons a month of water. Buckley uses the base, right? The entirety of the base uses about 12.
Okay.
So just to put it in a little bit of context. Now, a golf course can use about 17 million gallons a month too,
But it's
in the
not
summer.
potable.
The golf courses are technically non-potable, but the water supply they're using, we are turning into potable.
Oh,
So it's still a problem. But they are, and the park system can use a lot
Yeah.
of water as well, but golf courses can use a similar volume of water compared to Niagara. So it's really outdoor irrigation in Niagara. The Gaylord Resort uses about 9 million gallons a month. The entirety of the resort, including outdoor irrigation,
Uses how much?
9
Oh.
million. So Niagara, one customer
Right.
on an 18-acre parcel uses 17 to, I think that, and that's an average. Some months they'll use 19 or 20. But
200 last year for the year.
for the year, 200 million. Yeah, 200 million gallons of water for the year. So that's why we're asking them to reduce, because they use such a huge
Such a
portion
huge
of
amount,
water,
right.
and that's why we're getting letters, is because they don't like, they've lobbied you, Angela and François, you might remember a few years ago, they did the same thing when they wanted to expand and get more water, and we told them, no,
Yep.
you would have to pay an exorbitant connection fee. They also lobbied all of council then. So they've done this a few times in the past. I was hopeful they would be more cooperative and responsive this time, but they appear to be going down the same path. So we will get the communication out to all of council. We will also plan on scheduling an exec session. We've got to get with the attorney's office to do that, so that then we can answer questions, provide some of the history, and more of the details on what we're talking about with them right now.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn?
Let's see.
Yeah, there's one more, and that's the BLM MOU. So we have a memorandum of understanding from the BLM since we've transitioned to the southern site, and because there's no surface
You
acreage.
just speak up.
Oh, sorry. So because there's we switched to the southern site, and because there's no surface acreage, it changes things quite a bit for their process. So we were under an MOU before where we were paying for BLM's time. With this situation, there is no surface land, so they don't have the ability to accept funds that way. And so now it's an MOU that contemplates an EA or an EIS on the southern site. It's kind of the order of operations on how the process will work, but there's no money involved in it. It's basically roles and responsibilities, and it allows us to develop the EA versus the BLM and their third-party team to develop the EA. So it's a memorandum of understanding. We're bringing it here to see if we should need to, or can go straight to study session with it just based on timing. And then the other question is if there will be several of these types of agreements that wouldn't have money involved in them, and some may have minor amounts of money involved in them. And if the Water Policy Committee would like us to bring all of these agreements through here, or if you would prefer that we do an ordinance, so Marshall has the ability to administratively assign agreements like this, and then we would just update you on the agreements that have been signed. So a couple of questions for you all.
I mean, if they're pretty routine, they're not, like you said, there's no money involved, and it's just rules and
It's
Yeah.
regulations.
I wouldn't call them routine necessarily,
Okay.
because wild horse is unique,
Yeah.
but they would be more administrative in nature, a lot of them. The one going through right now, again, has no money associated with it. It's just how we coordinate with the BLM through the process. So we could do a couple of things. We could bring them all through the full council process individually, which is what the code requires, or we could bring one, again, ordinance or resolution to council that says for the administrative
Yeah.
agreements specific to wild horse, you could delegate the authority to me to sign those and then require periodic update.
Yeah.
We could do that for drawing a line with any that are non-monetary, or you could draw a line that says under a certain amount of money, go ahead and do that. If there's 20,000, do you want it to come to you?
Yeah.
So we could approach it a couple of different ways.
I mean, I'm comfortable with doing, whether I don't know if it'd be a resolution or ordinance, but to delegate that authority to you. and maybe the money with a certain threshold. I don't know if it's under 50,000, maybe.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah.
Committee members.
I'm fine with, with delegating Marshall with that, especially the ones with the 0, and maybe the threshold could be the 50 to kind of match what we do with the other contracts.
Okay,
Okay, great.
great.
So for this agreement, we'll move that to study session and then likely bring it to, along with a resolution or an ordinance, with that to propose to the entire council.
Okay.
Okay,
Sounds good.
great.
All right.
Thank you.
Is that
Appreciate
all?
that. Yep,
Okay.
at least from
All
that
right.
item.
With that, I guess our next meeting, I don't have the date,
July 15th.
July 15th. Oh, my mom's birthday.
Everybody's birthday on water policy.
There's a lot of birthdays. Are the committee members good with July 15th for our next meeting?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, same here. So we'll go ahead and confirm that. And anything else? Or we adjourn? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.